Guess who's back? Back again. Bill is back. Tell your friends. Nah, but jokes aside, Bill is back like cooked crack and twice as addictive. So, Fent basically. Anyway, what better way to start the season than with the only team that matters? Them Phila Mother Flippadelphia Eagles. Specifically, I want to give y'all one good reason why Jalen and Cole will make it back to the chip this year, and also one good reason why they probably won't win 9 games. And I'm going to do the same for the other two teams in the conference that I think have a legit shot to make it. So, yeah, give it to me. So here's the thing about the Eagles' last year. Yeah, they underperformed, and the drawing was more basic than the 5 times tables, probably the 10s times tables to be honest. But Philly still had a top 10 despite basically running my varsity team's playbook down to dysfunctional sideline and coaches squaring up with the other team. The difference between us and the Eagles, though, is that our two biggest linemen were like 225 soaking wet with concrete bricks in their draws. Our receivers couldn't catch a burner in Bangkok, and all the best players had to play both sides of the ball the whole game and special teams. No wonder the coaches was trying to fight 16 and 17-year-olds, now that I think about it. Point being, this starting O is basically a fantasy draft wet dream. And in the hands of a halfway competent coordinator, which Kellen Moore is, by the way, this squad should be like top 3 at worst in scoring, in my opinion. The D, on the other hand, was hot garbage. Like the bootiest of butt cheeks. Like more ass than the BBL convention, also known as the AVN Expo. Like, okay, this D isn't San Francisco or Detroit in just raw talent, and the secondary did go through more bodies than the U.S. military. Yeah, y'all thought that was going to be a sex joke, didn't you? Thirsty mofo. But with a D line featuring the likes of Jalen Carter, Hassan Reddick, and Josh Sweat, plus Darius Slay still playing at a Pro Bowl level in the secondary, ain't no way y'all should have been second to dead last in the league, man. I mean, you know it's bad when niggas like me were acting like the cooked corpse of Shaq Leonard was somehow going to lead us into the promised land. Like football analysis said, you don't have to be the Niners or the Lions or last year's Ravens. Just don't be ass. And this team is going to win the division at worst and win the chip at best. Again, do I think Fangio is like the Kyle Shanahan of defense or something? No, or else he wouldn't have gotten ran out of Denver. But he's not Matt Patricia, and that's good enough. So, yeah, there you have it. Super Bowl 2025, Philadelphia, y'all. Grease the poles again. I don't know what to make of Nick at this point, man, to be honest. He's the best and worst of Philly sports fandom incarnate. And I think that's why people cape for him so much.
I know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm allowed to be down
When we was winning, that is. But then we weren't winning anymore. And the whole league and the city, for that matter, decided to dump on him like some weird freak fetish. Here's the thing, though. Yeah, I get the whole, well, a good head coach doesn't have to be a good coordinator and vice versa, because, I mean, Mike Tomlin hasn't called the defense since he was in higher learning. But the thing is, I don't even know what Nick does anymore besides book the team escape room excursions. Like, that's supposed to be his thing, building culture and whatever. And yeah, he does do a bang up job of that, but what else does he actually do? As far as I know, Howie was the main one in charge of hiring Vic and Kellen, not Nick. And we already saw what happens when you let Nick draw up a playbook last year. So again, what is he doing on a day-to-day basis besides, I guess, sitting in on position group meetings or something? It's like Kamala for the 4 years before Biden's brain circuitry blew out. We ain't see or hear from her except to give a soundbite every once in a while. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that Nick was very much a part of the problem last year. And it feels like the front office's answer to fixing it was making Nick into basically a figurehead, which I mean, okay, if it works, then it works. But I don't remember the last time a team won a chip with the head coach doing nothing but handing out juice boxes on the sideline. And again, I can't even tell you if that is what's going on. But what I do know is I personally don't feel like you can win a chip without a coach. That's just me, man. All right, let's talk about the 40 stabbers real quick. I guess they shooters now too, huh? This team is stacked like the odds against Drake's comeback. On paper, the Niners should have won at least 2 or 3 chips by now, and everybody should have stopped drafting quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds and trade the ones you had before they asked to get paid. But that's the thing. On paper, that should have happened. And yeah, San Fran has had some less than great luck lately with the whole Brock getting hurt playing football because I mean this freaking football thing a few years ago, and also having to play Patrick Mahomes when it matters most, which is a death sentence for anybody. But from top to bottom, there aren't any real weaknesses on this team on either side of the ball. C-Mac is still basically just Jim Brown after a skin bleaching. Brandon Ayuk finally got his money, and Debo is top tier when he's not bitching. You know what I mean? George Kittle is a caveman, basically, and that's just the O. The D line is arguably the best in the business, and they got to be good for at least like a half sack above expected per game against black quarterbacks. This might also be the last team in the conference to actually value linebacker play aside from Detroit that I can think of. And the secondary, although not world beaters, is good enough, especially with that front seven in front of them. Like, this is it. Jokes aside, man. If San Fran don't get it done this year, that might be it for them for like the next 2, 3, or maybe 4 or 5 even. Like, they're still going to be competitive, but this is the two-edged sword of the whole, yeah, they're not a baddie, but they are loyal formula. Like, eventually, they're not going to be as freaky as you thought they were as the first. And your eyes going to start wandering and wishing you had what your homeboys and girls get to go home to. Am I still talking about football? Whatever. These is life lessons, nigga. My point is don't settle. But my other point is nobody but Niner nut jobs, hot take artists, and truck boat truckers are tricking themselves into thinking Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. But the thing is, that's okay. That's why you put Ayuk, Debo, C-Mac, and Kittle around him and Trent on his blind side. The problem is you can't keep all those weapons around him and pay him 60 mil a year. And that's why I say this is San Fran's last chance. And honestly, the reason I don't think that they're going to do it. Listen, I was never a big believer in the Super Bowl hangover thing until I saw it unfold for myself last year. Philly was sluggish the whole season, like they had the weight of the world on their shoulders. And the bottom just fell out of the joint at the point of the season when it mattered most. I know this sounds like some hocus pocus abracadabra BS, but I think San Fran hooking up with the sneaky link just to find out she not like that anymore is going to leave a scar, especially considering that, like I said, the band probably ain't getting back together next year. And even if they do, C-Mac is going to be a 28-year-old running back with more mileage on him than a rabbit's uterus. Trent still needs to get paid, and that's not counting everybody on the D that needs to get paid. That's not Bosa. So, yeah, this is it. And I don't know if San Fran can overcome all of that mental baggage. Specifically, Shanahan has to show some mental toughness to overcome being first runner up and have the impending divorce cloud dangling over his shoulder. Like, one thing that's always pissed me off about this team is how it's almost always, at least in part, somebody else's fault why they blow their load before switching positions. I don't care how much talent you have. If you don't know how to look in the mirror and say, I might be the problem, then you're doomed to be the bridesmaid. That's just what it is, man. All right, so just keeping it a buck, the only real reason I don't have this team at least going to the chip is a debilitating case of homerism. But if I were a betting man, I'd probably put my money on Detroit to represent the conference in the Super Bowl and then blow a 2-score lead to Pat in the Chiefs, because evidently this Heinz ketchup bottle looking nigga is going to be the NFL's version of Mike in the 90s, and a whole generation of Hall of Famers are never going to get to cash their chips in because of him, Andy, and the world's most famous frat boy. Now, the reason I say Detroit and not San Fran should be the betting favorite is because if y'all followed this channel back when I was uploading regularly, then you know how much I believe in building a team from the inside out. And unlike Philly and San Fran, Detroit's best linemen haven't either retired to begin a career as America's favorite drunk uncle without the racism, or are currently holding out to be paid their market value. Detroit had the 6th best rushing attack last year, and that's without the benefit of a QB who doubles as an all-world athlete like Baltimore, Chicago, Buffalo, and Philly did, a bell cow like San Francisco has, or the benefit of having all those illegal shifts called pre-snap motion because the league hates defense the way that Miami did. That said, it's not like Detroit is just running inside zone over and over again to get the second or third and manageable and then chuck the ball halfway downfield. Yeah, this is totally unrelated. I'm halfway flabbergasted that Ben Johnson didn't even interview for a head coach job, the way he had that old humming like a bad transmission. But a big part of that, I think, is because Johnson knows he's probably not going to find a better set of tools to build with, specifically a better O-line, which even if Kelsey hadn't hung it up, I still would say that Detroit probably has the best one in the league. Point I'm getting at is Detroit is built to out physical the ops. And like I said, that's how you win games in the winter months. But the problem is teams like San Fran and possibly Philadelphia are going to match Detroit's physicality and going to hit them over the top to keep them honest eventually. And that's why Detroit won't make it past the championship round. Like Amon Ra, aside from having the hardest NFL name since probably Bakari Rambo, is a stud. But who else is Jarrett going to throw to besides the Sun God? Right now, Jameson Williams is penciled in as wide receiver 2, but aside from getting suspended or getting hurt, he hasn't really done much in the league since being drafted. And I mean, granted, aside from George Pickens, none of the wideouts taken after JMO have done much of anything either. But aside from, I guess, John Mechie, if you do sip enough of the ESPN made Kool-Aid, none of those other guys are on a Super Bowl roster. And I mean, I do like Sam Laporta, but not as a second option, especially with Jared Goff as your quarterback. And listen, I think the whole elite QB thing is a little overblown because, I mean, Lamar has 2 MVPs and one championship round appearance and 0 Super Bowl appearances. Joe Burrow has like 1 healthy season under his belt. The league literally changed the rules so Josh Allen could get his lick back from Pat, and he hasn't even been past like the second round since, I don't think. Meanwhile, San Francisco has gotten to the dance with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy calling the shots. So this isn't a knock on Goff, as some of y'all are probably going to take it. He's proven that he's more than capable of managing a team to the championship. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't get about the whole game manager thing and why they take it as an insult. It's not just saying, go out there and don't F it up. It's saying go out there and play point guard. I'm not asking you to be the offense. I'm just asking you to facilitate it. And Goff excels at that. But he can't do that with just one capable pass catcher on the outside, or at least he can't against the other NFC heavyweights. And yeah, that's all I'm going to cover because yeah, I know that Green Bay is a sexier pick than a sheer sundress at this point, but they ain't done enough for me to put them in the convo. So yeah, there you have it. Tune in next time for the AFC. Yeah. All right. Video over.